a lot of shit to get to, guys. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But first and foremost, we got to get these tweets off. You know what I mean? Goal is to get the show under an hour. The podcast, at least. Not this part. This part doesn't count, bro. You guys know that. Don't try and play games with me. I thought I was a genius. Sorry, if you haven't heard Central Park, if you haven't watched Central Park, do yourself a favor. It has Leslie Odom Jr. in it. It's very good. Both seasons, actually, even though they changed the actors after they had that massive thing where they're like, oh man, all these white people are portraying animated black characters, which is weird. But true, it is weird. The thing that is true is that it is weird. I will agree with that. We got a subscriber a couple weeks ago. Shout out Yorkie Hunt 7. Didn't even join the actual chat. Didn't hop in, nothing. Just disrespectful. Just disrespectful. Didn't even watch the show. He was just like impressed off the way this guy's face looks. Done deal. Man, I wish there was... Oh, there is a way for me to do it. I literally just want to listen to the hype music in my headphones while I'm doing all this bullshit. Guys, it's happening. I'm getting back into paintball. Not just getting back into watching paintball. Maybe my tertiary. Yeah, right? It's tertiary, so it's like primary, secondary, tertiary. Yeah. Maybe my tertiary sport again, especially considering I have an ego. Which is like one of the better guns, but it's from like 10 years ago. Just chilling in my garage that I never fucking set up and fixed or anything. We got sound. We got the sound. The sound is here. The sound is here. Cool. Y'all can hear that. That's bad. Anyway. Alright, that's YouTube. Let's open up the Twitch dashboard, creator dashboard. By the way, we should be streamlined now because I'm drifting away from using stats unless they're really funny. And also, I think my notes are getting more concise. Getting more effective. I thought I was a genius. I need to find the tweet that I used last week and just copy and paste that, which is what I'm going to do, boys. Don't worry. Why is Boosie trending? You know what? There's like certain names where I'm just like, yup, not clicking that. Boosie is one of those names. Did I mention something stupid that happened where my personal Twitter account at the Ashton J is actually over 1,000 followers, and it was at 800. It was less than 800. No, it was like at 800 2 years ago or some shit like that. It's like organic building. It's really weird. Shout out to whoever's in the chat right now or hopping in and watching the stream right now. Can you hear? Well, yeah, you can hear me because you can hear me on YouTube. I saw that. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll through and see if I can get to my last podcast tweet. You know where it is? It's on Facebook, boys and gals and theys. Love the days. Love y'all too. Big heart. Did y'all see the Lakers dropped a Pride jersey and then did not allow people to comment on it? It's fucking weird. Like, they posted the Pride jersey and they're like, we know how you motherfuckers be. We're going to turn the comments off on this one. And to their credit, people do suck. People are still in the year 2022 trying to argue that gay people are wrong for existing, which I find hilarious because it's like, you're really weird for trying to tell people that they shouldn't exist. I don't really know how to say it in any other fashion. You are fucking weird if you're trying to tell people that they should not exist. By the way, if you're a fan, I dropped Image of the Week, and I also dropped a new segment called Longest, it's the worst drive of the week. So it is the longest drive that had the worst result. Could not find a drive that was like longer than like, so for instance, it's a combination of how many plays the drive is, And then on top of that, like how bad the result is and the situation. Like I'm gonna be honest with you, the Washington Commanders almost won it because in the saddest fashion possible, they had a 17-play drive where they got down to the Eagles' 1 yard line and then turned the ball over on downs on the 1 yard line. And that would have been, if they had gotten that touchdown, it would have been their first points of the game. That's how bad it was for them last week. Anyway, gonna wish that I had fun. I swear Facebook organizes my shit, like my post and everything, by like likes and everything. I fucking hate it. Like, it's not chronological anymore. Hey, Manu Ginobili. Oh, dang. One of my friends got to meet Manu Ginobili and Popovich. That's dope as fuck. By the way, shout out Greg Popovich for always being a legend. Being like, I would not go to Vegas and bet on this team, which immediately sent me into a frenzy of trying to figure out if he's fucking around or not. Because I'm pretty sure he's being for real about lying. I think he's being for real about lying about that. Yeah. Mindfuck, right? Control C. Copy, paste. Said that I wish that I could follow. Yeah, this might be the earliest we've done the NFL only show. By the way, I cannot wait until the fucking bye weeks, guys. I'm fucking dying over here. It's 16 games. And then the worst part was, I should probably tell you, man, you know what? I'm going to save it for, I'm going to save it because this weekend was wild as fuck. And it basically put me in a situation where basically none of the games that I watched live, I could reliably recall on my notes on what I saw and write anything down. So I had to go back and rewatch games that I had already watched. Tough. Terrible. Fucking terrible. Tweet. Hold on. Copy, paste. Oh, no thanks. I'll retweet. Man, Ninja's popping off on Ninja's popping off on TikTok now. And he's also apparently like uploading VODs on his own after, I guess, not doing it for years. Like, he's uploading his own video stuff that he's done before. VODs are the videos after you post on Twitch, which is why we simulcast on YouTube. Like, all my VODs are on YouTube. I'm sorry. Oh, something just came across my feed. NBA YoungBoy has 10 children. This is the people that they be repping in the streets. These the niggas they be repping. I'm just kidding. But yeah, he does have 2 children. Shout out, man. Chat blowing up. What's up? We're about to talk only NFL for like the next hour. So if you got any NFL takes you want to get off, any NFL questions, drop them in the chat. I'll be responding. And we're going to have a good time. Right now, we're just posting on social media so that we can get people to come and watch us talk about football. So, which is probably how that person got into the chat, because of my elite social media presence at over 1,000 followers on each page. On every page that I have. On every page that I have. Everything. I am now elite. I have not been given $1 million yet, but I expect it is in the mail. As a, social media mogul. I've always wondered, could I just Like, they have all these jobs for, like, content creators and stuff like that at different TV networks. And I've wondered to myself for the longest, could I just pull up, why are you saying, are we skipping frames? We are not. But for some reason, Twitch is saying my stream is unstable. It's weird. Keyframe interval too high. Whatever that means. Wow, my bitrate is, like, crazy low. What is going on? Hold on. I've never seen my bitrate in the red, but here we are. What does it look like on YouTube? It looks relatively normal. And I can admit that I was wrong. Alright, man. I don't know what's going on with the creator dashboard. I don't know what's going on with the creator dashboard, but I'm gonna move on with my life. Because we got shit to do. So, no. Oh, hold on. I gotta do something. By the way, definitely going to see that movie Bros. Cannot wait. Cannot wait at all. You ever seen a person magically just pop up pregnant that you used to know or that you know now? That happens sometimes. But it's cool people, though. Hate to admit that I was wrong. I gotta get new, like, fonts and shit, bro. Hold on. The story of Naruto Uzumaki. Oh, shit. You know, guys, nobody can know that you're live unless you put the microphone in the background. So, the story of Naruto Uzumaki. Can't wait to tell everybody how terribly I did this weekend, by the way, as well. So, but apparently, still doing very well in comparison to everybody else. Couple more minutes. We'll get this show started real quick. I'm posting on Instagram. I'm trying to do a better job about doing that, since Instagram is a place that I have a good chunk of followers. Although I'd be interested to see what my engagement is like on Instagram, because sometimes I get photos that pop off, and I try and do the stupid thing where you always post at the same time every day. Like, if it's outside of what is the number I would say? If it's at like 11 o'clock, I'm not gonna post it, even though most of the people that I know are older, and they're probably awake at 11 o'clock. Hold on. Hate to admit that I was wrong. Wow, man. They make sharing shit so fucking hard, man. They make sharing stuff on this app so hard, bro. I just want to literally share the link to my stream. There should be just a button where it's like, hey, bro, hit this button and it will share your link. There it is. All right, apparently my screen is black right now. That's fun. Is that true? Is that what's happening? No, it's not. Interesting. Hate to admit when I was wrong. Sorry for my terrible singing. You guys know the drill. I get at least one song an episode. You know what I mean? And it's usually I wish I could post like more than one link on a page, but I guess that's why YouTube and that's not even the arrow one. That's why YouTube and Twitch make you choose. Even though there's enough room in the world for the two of us. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Yup, that sounded exactly like it too. I'm about to get taken down off copyright. I'm not even lying, bro. Damn, that's tough. About to get demonetized off this video because I sound exactly like the Isley Brothers, even though it's not who sings that song. I just assume every dope song from like back in the day was sang by the Isley Brothers, which I feel like is valid. They were like one of the greatest singing groups of all time. All right, let's do this shit. All right, Buckaroos, guys and gals, boys and girls, let's turn up, shall we, fellow youths of America? Oh, did we put the episode? We did not. We did it again, guys. We did it again. Hold on. We did not put the episode number. By the way. Oh, what? We got 2 more subscribers on YouTube. Let's go, baby. We out here cooking, bro. One might say we're blowing up. Not me. Somebody who is good at this. Anyway, the next episode is episode 200. So I don't know what we're going to do for it. Do I think we should do something for it? Great question, Ashton. I don't know. Not even gonna lie, bro. I haven't posted episode tiles in like so long. Like where I literally put the name of the episode on it and just be like, go listen to it right now. I should get back on doing that. We can make it if we try, just the 2 of us. Just the 2 of us. Man. You know who about to be down bad? Lions fans again. Because they can never have anything nice, bro. They never can. Anyway, let's talk some football. NFL. Yo, man. It's that time of year where, like, my allergies are kicking off hard as fuck, bro. And honestly, everything on my body is basically constantly itching when that happens. So it's not fun for me or anybody else involved. And then I usually have, like, this massive skin breakout thing where I have to, like, keep my body basically dunked completely in lotion. Or my skin will literally peel off of my entire body in, like, very painful manner. Or what the natural thing to do, or what I tend to do is, like every time I go sweat, that's when the magic happens. It helps out a lot, actually. What podcast should we do? Live. Let's do it. All right, let's do it. Going live in 3. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody else in between, my name is Ashton Gene Lewis. This is the Broke Boy Sports Podcast, and it's episode 199. The next one, first of all, if you already know the secret, we are actually already over episode 200. I'm just terrible at numbering these episodes. So, yeah, episode 200 coming up tomorrow on Friday. Don't know what we're doing for it. Pretty sure we're just going to do a regular podcast. I might try and get Martin on. We'll see what happens. Anyway, you know what time it is. First podcast of the week is on Thursday. It should be on Tuesday. It'll probably be on Tuesday when we start getting fewer and fewer games that I have to watch in the span of like 2 days. Because as soon as all the games are over on Sunday, I have to immediately start watching the other games. What I probably should be doing, like I dual screen. So I half and half screen my TV. So I put one game on the right hand side and one game on the left hand side, all that shit like that, and play it out. I should probably like watch the round before while the second round is going on, and check that out. Anyway, with the combination of watching every single game, because I do watch a replay of every single game, and then reading about every single game, and then of course the help that social media brings and doesn't add to the discourse on a regular basis, like the wild shit that happens, but it does add some flavor to it. Like, for instance, the Miami Dolphins had strippers at the tailgate this week. I don't know if that's like a regular occurrence or it's just like a special occasion for the Bills coming in. Also saw a video of like some dude break like a regular, and I'll bring this up culturally. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan out there, does it count if it's not like a white lifetime table that like has the halfway mark on it, right? Because I saw a dude jump on one of those kind of like soft shell. I'll blow up the screen real quick. Hold on. I saw a guy jump on one of those, like, it looks like this black table, this black desk that I have, except it has like the little soft padding felt on top of it, and he fucking lands on it, breaks it or whatever. And I'm like, that doesn't count. Well, it's a certain type of table. You know what I mean? It's a cultural thing that it has to be like a white table. Also, like, I'm not gonna lie, vibe check wise, breaking tables just ain't as cool unless it's like fucking 12 degrees outside. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm trying to fix something real quick. There we go. We fixed it. I don't know if you could hear what that was, but I fixed it to make sure you couldn't. Anyway, but yeah, like cultural wise, it's not valid unless it's like one, a white foldable table. And honestly, man, look, the ones that fold in the tables that fold in the middle that have like that mid breaking point kind of deal, those are a relatively new invention. I think the OG Bills fans know that the only ones that really, really count are the ones that don't have the little bracket in the middle. You know what I mean? So those are weaker. Those are stronger. Anyway, we are live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. We're live if you want to just listen to my voice. We are live on Spreaker, which is the app that I use to distribute the podcast out to all the podcast networks, because you can't just like upload to Spotify and be like, this is my podcast kind of deal. So, which by the way, if they could, it would crash like multiple businesses that exist. But we are on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Podchaser, Apple Podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts. I have 1 5-star review. If you want to make it 2 5-star reviews, feel free. Go ahead. If you want to make it 1 1-star review, totally understand. I'm still trying to get better every single day, but make sure you preface, like, if you're going to leave me like a low-star review or whatever, please give me like an actual review of the pod, because I actually would love some critiques from people who are listening, because I really struggle with like understanding what people enjoy hearing and what they don't enjoy hearing. So I struggle with that aspect of it. And I would appreciate if somebody gave me like, you know, some feedback, some like legit feedback on what they think of the show. So let's dive into it, ladies and gentlemen. We got a bunch of stuff to get to. We got the nuke for the week, obviously. We need to talk about some records that went down. So we had 15 games. That doesn't add up. There were 15 games. Oh, no. Sorry. I took an L on Thursday Night Football automatically because I always forget to pick Thursday Night Football. But I was going to pick the Browns because I knew that they were better than the Steelers. And I actually was surprised at how low score. Like, I was surprised that they couldn't pull away from them a little bit further until, like, late in the game. Because they were going to win by a field goal until that crazy touchdown at the end that blew up the over-under, which is gotta be heartbreaking for most people. Anyway, the spread and straight up, I went the same this week, like absolute dog shit. I went 6-9. Multiple games, all. I went back and looked at it. Basically, all the one possession, the games that were like 2 points, 3 points, I lost those. Because I picked the wrong side based off of, you know, the line being super tight. Fucked that up pretty bad. But apparently that's enough to still remain in the 90 percentile and the 60-something or 70 percentile on ESPN. So, yeah, I'll be right back at it. I'll be back on top in no time. I still am in first place in the straight-up money line pick'em league that I'm in. And then for the spread, I slipped all the way down to fourth place. It's like a 7-person league that I'm in. And fourth place right now is basically like 4 games. So we'll see what happens, because this period of time before the first bye weeks of the season are massively important. They are the period of time where you can get the most points per week. So the biggest swings happen in the course of this week, because once you get later on in the season where there's like 8 games, 9 games, or whatever it may be, you get fewer opportunities to make big swings because most people, 1, have dialed in on how good the teams are and are not. 2, have a kind of a gist and understanding of how much the injuries are affecting people. And 3, you're picking similar results because of the fewer options that you have. So your opportunities to get ahead on other people are fewer and far between because people are getting better as the season goes along, very much like football teams are. Which, by the way, stern reminder, we're in week 3. Calm the fuck down, bro. We're not picking the Super Bowl champion next week. We're in week 3. Well, week 4, because it's Thursday, September 29th. That's probably the earliest I've done it in the show in quite some time. Anyway, if you're watching on Twitch, you're watching on YouTube, feel free to drop questions in the chat. I am checking periodically, and then I think the chat box is set up on OBS. So whatever you type in that's not censored will come up on the actual screen, and I'll be able to see it that way as well. Probably won't be actually visible to the person that's watching at home because Twitch is a strange format, strange platform, strange place. I will say that much. Anyway, top to bottom, that's our update for our picks this past week. We went 6-9 in both against the spread and straight up. So it was tough. It was bad. It's probably one of the worst weeks I've ever had. And it showed. We got to get back into the drawing board. Got to get back in there. The games were real weird. But speaking of real weird, we got something to talk about. The Nuke, ladies and gentlemen, a segment on our NFL-only show where we talk about the player that had the biggest individual impact on your fantasy matchup and more than likely blew up any opportunity that you had to win, because when the nuke goes off, it is scorched earth against their opponent. It's almost like there's been so many times in fantasy football history where like somebody has a record day and then all of a sudden like your player's averaging 10 points per player literally doesn't matter because this other person had like 54. The nuke for this week is Khalil Herbert. If you did not hear, Khalil had a perfect blend of immense amount of talent and skill. Plus, he went up against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL in the Houston Texans. Shout out Khalil Herbert with the career-high rushing yards and career-high rushing touchdowns in a single season. He's also in what many people would say a similar position to Tony Pollard, where there's a guy in front of him who very clearly is very good, or very decent at least. He just isn't as good as he has been when he first came onto the scene, right? With David Montgomery's been hurt off and on for quite some time, and so it opens the door for guys like Khalil Herbert to come through, but for some reason the team isn't just making the decision of Khalil Herbert is going to be the number one back for us when he gets back. When we're at 100%, Khalil Herbert is not our first option at running back, but this week's nuke is Khalil Herbert for a career week, and then of course absolute domination, especially if you're in one of those leagues where rushing yards are worth it's 1 per point or something, or 1 point per rushing yards, or half a point per rushing yard kind of deal, because that was absolute domination. So, or if you're in the weird yet not non-existent point per carry league. Yeah, there are leagues where you get points per running back carry, because he had quite a few of them in this one. Also, domination after contact, because the Texans depend upon their DBs to not only defend the passing plays, but also the run. And that's usually bad, because DBs are, one, very, very small, and also very far away from the line of scrimmage most of the time when they have to make tackles. So, yeah. But, yeah, shout out Khalil Herbert. Absolutely amazing day in one of the most boring games for week 3 of the NFL season. Let's talk about one of my favorite segments. Let's talk about some streaks, some peaks, and some ditches. Streaks, obviously, crazy streaks that have been going on in the NFL. Peaks, some levels, some heights that people have never reached before. And then the ditches, of course, the lows. The lows that people have never reached before. What do we got today? Let's go 5. So we got a ditch for the first one here. The Raiders are the only team in the NFL that is 0-3 currently. The Texans would be 0-3, but they tied with the Colts. And as a franchise, have never made the playoffs after starting 0-3. Actually went back, read articles about this. The last time that the Raiders were 0-3, not 0-3. The last time that they had a situation where they were 0-3. They had a winless situation. So they had a tie. So they were 0-2-1 to start the season and made it pretty deep in the playoffs. This Raiders team, although is 0-3 and they're the only one in the NFL. So yeah, there we go. My bad. Hit the same one twice. Peak. Cordero Patterson reminding us that playing running back is apparently kind of easy, especially when you're like faster than everybody else. Turns out running routes is overrated. He had a career high in rushing yards, 141 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. A ditch. This one was actually really funny. I did a TikTok on this one. The Bills' longest drive in 21 years, dead serious, 21 years, was for 20 plays and resulted in just a field goal. And it was in a key situation versus the Miami Dolphins, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Don't worry, guys. Streak. The Jaguars broke an 18-game road losing streak when they beat the Chargers this past week. Shout out to them for that one. And then this one is a peek. It's a little small print because it's a lot going on, but it's actually really dope. Mac Hollins, if you're familiar with him, he used to play for the Miami Dolphins in free agency. He ended up with the Las Vegas Raiders, and apparently, he's making a name for himself out there in Vegas real fast. He is literally on the verge of one of the greatest seasons in his entire career, which is 4 years in at this point. He has 2 catches before he before he surpasses his catches per season. And right now, at this rate, he's going to go way past that. He's 15 yards away from a career high in yards, and he is also 3 receiving touchdowns away from a career high in reception touchdowns. That's pretty dope. I enjoy that quite a lot. I'm not going to lie. You love to see people succeed, especially guys like Mac Hollins. He's a big anime fan. He used to be the player that, if you recall on NFL social media, he would show up dressed up as characters from different animes to Miami's games and stuff like that. Like, he came as Afro Luffy one time, which I thought was really dope because Afro Luffy's like a very niche character within the world of One Piece. He's there were crew games going on between the Straw Hat Pirates and I want to say, I forget his name, but he's a ballerina who has the ability to take the clone fruit. Now, they had like crew battles between him and his crew, and if you lose, they get all of your crewmates and all that kind of stuff like that. Anyway, they had that battle, and Afro Luffy shows up for the final round, and it's literally just Luffy with a wig on, which is really weird, and he beats the hell out of like their crew captain and wins all of his crewmates back, including Chopper, Dr. Chopper. You know how it goes. Going through it one more time. Ditch on this one. The Raiders are the only team in the NFL, like we mentioned before, 0-3 on the season. They're the only team in the NFL 0-3 right now. They have never made the playoffs after starting the season 0-3. Cordero Patterson, running back / wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons, career yards versus the Seattle Seahawks this past week. 141 rushing yards. Crazy to think about, and a rushing touchdown to go with it. Trying to make it happen and getting that dub. The ditch, the 20-play drive for the Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins this past weekend was the longest in 21 years for the Buffalo Bills, and it only resulted in a field goal. Mac Hollins in the midst of a career year, and it's only week 3. He's 3 games in, and he's already 2 catches away from surpassing his career high in catches. He is 15 measly reception yards away from the most yards ever in his NFL career, and he's only 3 receiving touchdowns away from the best year in terms of scoring for him as well. That's pretty dope. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to breaking down the games, we're going to take a quick hydration break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about how I sorted all of the games from week 3 into their different categories. So if you don't remember from last week, we got Snooze Fest, which is going to be the first one up because you got to get the boring ones out of the way quick. We have Heartbreakers, which are the games that were the most dramatic or had the most, had the saddest storyline coming out of it in the end when it was all said and done. And then we have the This Is What We're Here For category, where we talk about games that were really exciting, that we had a lot of fun watching. So as I take our first hydration break of this episode, make sure that you too choose to hydrate. I don't judge what type of liquid you choose to drink during your hydration break, but nonetheless, need you to make sure that you're getting some fluids in your system. I'll be right back in 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Up first, we got Laying in Your Arms by Christina Gukas. And we're back here live on the Broke Boys Sports Podcast. We got a lot of games to get through here, so let's power through, ladies and gentlemen. First off, we got the Snooze Fest category for Week 3 of the NFL season. Don't worry, I wrote a ton of notes that, you got to get your jokes off sometimes, you know what I mean? So, let's start with the country's collective suffering that was Sunday Night Football, the Denver Broncos taking on the San Francisco 49ers, which originally would have been Trey Lance versus Russell Wilson, something that I think a lot of people would have been really down to see, especially if the 49ers had made massive improvements like we all thought they were going to. Hold on a second here. Sorry about that. I had to fix something real quick. Anyway, Russell Wilson, San Francisco 49ers. And instead, oh, that was my Fitbit. I was like, what is vibrating on my phone is on my bed. Anyway, but instead, we got, we got a couple of things. None of them very good in this game. So my favorite part of this whole thing was watching a defense tee off on an offense that clearly was like 17 steps behind what the defense was trying to do. The pass rush was amazing. Randy Gregory looked like, Von Miller out there, goddamn it, with the way that they were pass blocking against him, or should I say lack of pass blocking versus him. Anyway, that was a real thing for Jimmy Garoppolo, who clearly was struggling, and I find it funny because, the big highlight of this whole thing was the freedom of Dan Orlovsky, like a genie attached to a bottle, trapped in a bottle, and the owner of the lamp used their last wish to set him free, and so subsequently the lamp had to go find a new genie to trap in the bottle, and it was Jimmy Garoppolo this time around running out of the back of the end zone for a safety, which, by the way, kind of understandable and very clear that Jimmy Garoppolo was waiting for a route that was on the outer edge that would have resulted in a pick six if it had been completed. But him stepping out of bounds stopped the pick six and gave the Broncos 2 points instead of the 6 from the touchdown that they were subsequently going to score, because the route that he threw to was like Jeff Wilson Jr. and he got basically swallowed up by an outside linebacker. They snatched that shit out the air and ran it back, but too bad Jimmy had already stepped out of bounds. I would also like to point out, funniest tweet, hands down, somebody took a photo, somebody used the photo of Jimmy Garoppolo putting his foot down in the out-of-bounds area where racism was written into the back of the end zone, and he said, Jimmy Garoppolo putting his foot down against racism. My personal GOAT. I love it. I love the internet. Undefeated is the internet. But yeah, that being said, that was probably the highlight of this entire game. There was multiple times where they kind of like teased you a little bit. They were like, oh, we think we figured out the offense. Oh, we think we figured out how to complete 2 passes in a row. We might have a chance. And then all of a sudden the defense was like, yes, that was cute of you to try and throw the ball a little bit. Russell Wilson couldn't get a clean pocket. Russell Wilson was struggling with sprint outs where they snap the ball and you immediately run as hard as you can to the right-hand side because the wide receiver is running an out route. He overthrew somebody on an out route, which, by the way, we're going to talk about somebody who had some terrible fucking accuracy this past weekend, and it won't surprise you at all. You probably already know who I'm talking about based off just what I said. Surprisingly enough, this is probably the one game on Sunday that I watched from beginning to end because I forgot to tell everybody the story I was going to tell. I, on Saturday, had a tournament to go to, Quidditch tournament to go to, which subsequently usually means that the show itself is up in the air as to whether or not it's going to happen. And the thing that you can take away from this is that I had to drive. I left, I want to say at like 7 a.m., 6 a.m., something like that. Drove to Waco, Texas, got there, played the tournament all day, then drove to a friend of mine's birthday party, friend of mine / teammates' birthday party, got there at like 11 because I forgot that Waco, Texas is basically 3 hours away from San Antonio, which is where the party was going down. And then from San Antonio, I drove home. Back to Houston. So I drove in like a giant triangle, and it was 3 hours all ways. Houston to Waco was 3, Waco to San Antonio was 3, and then San Antonio back to Houston was 3. So it was a long day. This is the nice way to phrase it. Anyway, I got back home at like 3 or 4 in the morning or something like that. Went to sleep, woke up at 11:30 so I could make my picks, and then thought about going back to sleep, could not go back to sleep, stayed up, watched a bunch of the games, watched a bunch of the first round games, and then towards the end of the first round, I was watching Dolphins, Bills, and I started fading away. Fading away, guys. And I slept through all of the second round of games and almost slept through the beginning of Sunday Night Football. I'm not even going to lie. I slept through the entirety of the pregame and woke up, as you guys know. Are you ready for some football? Anyway, sorry about that for peeking your speakers out with my excellent docile tones. But yeah, that was what my Sunday looked like. And then, of course, that subsequently fucked my Sunday night because I had to watch games. And I started with Panthers Saints, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Started with Panthers Saints and worked my way all the way through. Read a bunch of articles on Tuesday. Thought I was going to be able to get the show off on Tuesday, but had a car malfunction where I had to spend all day trying to get that fixed. And spent a bunch of money on a part that I hope never breaks again because it was super annoying. Anyway, Broncos, 49ers. Final score, 11-10. The controversy in this game, I don't know if you guys heard about it or not, the scoregami mistake, the misagami, as some people were calling it. The last time, so a scoregami, if you're not familiar with it, is a unique score that happens in the NFL. So 7-3 happen a bunch. I think 21-14 is the most common score in NFL history or something like that on average. Anyway, that happens every so once in a while because of the way the NFL is and it's been around for so long. There are new scores that pop up. There were multiple scoregamis last year, and it was the first time there have been multiple scoregamis in a singular year for like 5 years or something like that, because more games are coming out with the same exact scores and all the other scores have been achieved except like the absurdly high ones where it is like 70-30 something kind of deal, right? Like that hasn't been achieved yet. So the only way to get new scoregamis is for somebody to set a season high in points scored in a game, right? Which is possible, but with the pace of the NFL, it kind of caps how many points you can score in an individual game, especially considering how difficult it is to be successful. But at some point, it will happen. This score, 11-10, had happened one time prior to Sunday Night Football. And if you recall, it was the night of the Fail Mary. If you don't remember, long time ago, seems like eons ago, the NFL refs went on strike. And the NFL thought that they could hire refs from other leagues to become NFL refs. There was a bunch of stuff that went horribly wrong. They showed a lack of understanding of the NFL rules at an elite level because this stuff is happening at literally lightning speed. And it's not like one of those situations where it's like, oh man, like half of the ref crew is brand new referees. And so you can lean on the experienced guys to teach the young guys what they should be looking out for. This is all brand new people who were officiating the number one football league in the world, and so they fucked up a lot. There was instances where people took information from the referees that were in the game's Facebook accounts. I know there was one in particular that stuck out in my mind. A guy who was officiating a Saints game literally is a Saints fan. And whether that actually affects how he called that game, which I would imagine it actually doesn't, because I feel like the integrity of being an official and you as a person is a factor. But the fact of the matter is like you can't be the official that literally they can go on Facebook and find a picture of you at the Saints game with Saints gear on, cheering on the Saints, and there's like a long legacy of your fandom posted on the internet. People already think the NFL is rigged. They don't need to see which, by the way, the logic of if you were really trying to rig the NFL, you wouldn't have a referee with blatant connections and ties to a team. Stupid, right? But, people who believe in conspiracy theories are not smart. And when you try and question their logic with, basic common sense, they shut down and they usually start yelling and screaming. Trust me, I've, talked to a dude who tried to convince me that he can shoot at the same rate of three-pointers that Steph Curry can, and it turned into, easily one of the worst Uber rides I've ever had. He yelled and screamed and slammed my door when I told him. I was like, you clearly don't understand how basketball works. And then he told me that he had watched a masterclass by Steph Curry, and now he's like, yeah, I shoot at the same rate. I just did it I just learned how to play basketball, and I can shoot just like Steph Curry can. He's like, there are other people who can shoot better than Steph Curry at the same rate, and I was like, I don't think you understand basketball, bro, at all. And I was like, if other people could shoot like Steph Curry, then why haven't they done it? And then he just like, oh, he's like, the league won't let him do it. They want Steph Curry to be great. And I was like, if you were a league, why would you want him? And you could pick one person to be great and dominate and be the face of your league. Why would you pick Steph Curry? Also, why would you just pick one? Anyway, multiple faces of the league actually makes a lot more sense than just picking one guy to represent you. Anyway, this scoregami had happened before, and it was the night of the Hail Mary, the last night that the NFL referees would be on strike, because this was the instance where it was Golden Tate caught the ball versus the 49ers in the end zone, and the Sports Illustrated cover, and I swear it's probably one of the most iconic ones ever. The back of the end zone ref had his hands with a no catch situation because it was a jump ball and they both had the ball, even though if you watch the video back, the defensive back, who I think was Jason Verrett before he got hurt or something like that, he caught the interception, and then Golden Tate, as Verrett was coming down, got in there and tried to like wrestle the ball away from Jason Verrett, who had already caught the pick. That's what we're talking about here. That game, and the Sports Illustrated cover is one ref going like this for no catch, and then the other ref calling for a touchdown. And that was the truly iconic moment in NFL history. It was the last night that they used the other NFL refs that were coming from like the Lingerie Football League. Legitimately, in one case, they were coming from the Lingerie Football League. Some of them were college refs and stuff like that. But that was the scoregami that counted. A lot of people say because they went back and they retroactively admitted that they shouldn't have called that a touchdown, that even though it didn't change in the record book, it didn't change for the season. It didn't change anywhere at any given point, even though the Seahawks and the 49ers were like pivotal teams in that situation. They were like Super Bowl contenders, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, that happened. That was when this 11-10 scoregami happened. When the league retroactively went back and said they shouldn't have counted that touchdown, technically, that scoregami never happened. And so people now are up in arms about, well, not up in arms. They're sarcastically up in arms about one of the nerdiest things about the NFL and NFL fandom. Is this the scoregami for 11-10, or is it the Hail Mary game? You decide. Green Bay Packers, that's all I'm going to say about that game. Packers Buccaneers, this is really funny because this is the game. This is exactly how we thought this game was going to go, right? Like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have not shown any explosive offense whatsoever. They've barely shown any semblance of a run game throughout the course of this season. And the Green Bay Packers really have been struggling to get their pass game going and have been heavily dependent upon A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones to carry the offense while they try and figure out the wide receiver situation. Romeo Doubs finally had a big play, caught a touchdown pass. Everybody celebrates, big time stuff. The rumors that Aaron Rodgers got by the way, I don't feel like we're talking enough about Aaron Rodgers has completely gone, I went on vacation in Europe and came back a different person on us. His clothes that he is wearing pregame look like fake white guy shaman cult leader shit. Dead serious. Go look up what he wore before Packers Buccaneers. Go look it up. I'm dead serious, bro. Out of control. Out of fucking control. It really is. Anyway, that's how this game ended. The Packers were able to muster just an ounce more offense than the Buccaneers did. By the way, the Buccaneers did that thing where like they basically were ineffective in the first half and then kind of exploded in the second, which is something that's been happening consistently, which has resulted in the most one possession games in like NFL history in the first 3 weeks of the season. Anyway, moving on, one possession games. The Rams played the Cardinals. The Rams got into the Cardinals' ass basically the entirety of this game, and they stayed there. Aaron Donald was running after Kyler Murray, and regardless of how fast Kyler Murray was, for some reason Aaron Donald seemed just as fast. There was multiple instances where Kyler couldn't sit still in the pocket, and it resulted in even times when the Rams were not getting pressure, Kyler was still freaking out and thought somebody was coming, right? Like that's an important aspect of it. The Rams also did a really good job of bottling up Kyler, making sure that he couldn't eject out of the backside of the pocket and killed him for yards down the field. That combined with the fact that the Cardinals were already really shitty on third down going into the first 3 weeks of this season, resulted in the Cardinals offense basically being non-existent. Aaron Donald did the thing where he makes people who look like they have dedicated their entire lives to playing football, made them look like they question their career choices. There was one instance where he annihilates a Cardinals guard. Literally, he looks like he didn't even get out of his stance, and he tried to punch his hands out to get a hand on Aaron Donald, and all of a sudden he's on his back, and Aaron Donald's in the backfield chasing down Kyler Murray. Aaron Donald also got sack number 100 in his career in this game. And if you didn't see it, it was absolutely insane. It was a shoelace sack. He shoots unblocked, by the way. Literally got out of his stance before the other guard, and before the guard in the center for the Cardinals could. Shoots out there. Kyler Murray drops back like 15 yards to get away from Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald throws him off his balance by swiping at his leg, which I can imagine how the thump of Aaron Donald's arm swiping and hitting your leg into your other leg, and then you subsequently falling down like 10 yards further back. Kyler tried to throw the ball away at the last second, which would have been intentional grounding, but instead they call it no good on the intentional grounding because Aaron Donald insisted that he sacked Kyler Murray by swiping his leg because he knew it was going to be sack number 100. Anyway, he also got like a pseudo sack late in the fourth quarter, which was he ran up the gut unblocked again, and Kyler Murray just threw the ball away instantaneously. That's a real sack in my mind. That's a sack to me. In my heart, that's a sack. Moving on, last game in the snooze fest category, the Chicago Bears played the Houston Texans. Chicago Bears have 23 pass attempts in the first 3 weeks of the season. Khalil Herbert ran for a career high in yards and rushing touchdowns. Davis Mills had his first turnover of the season, which spells absolute doom for the Houston Texans. So, yeah, like the thing happened. The thing happened where, real life struck. The Texans don't have an offense that's potent enough to be able to overcome turnovers. The Chicago Bears have a defense that's good enough to be able to stop the Houston Texans, which ain't really asking too much. But for some people it is. But for the Bears, it's not. The Bears offense still is non-existent. It was just a little bit more, like they got one more heartbeat out. Like they're both flatlining on the table. The Bears stayed alive like half a second longer, and it resulted in the Texans losing by 3. Even though they had the lead vast majority of this game. And that will end the snooze fest category for games. We're going to take a quick hydration break. When we come back, we'll talk about the heartbreakers, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. These games are a ton of fun for everybody involved, except me. It was not, like I said, I watched all these games. Some of them were a little tough to watch. These were not. These were the dramatic ones. These are the games that went all the way down to the wire, due to either a comeback or like a lot of back and forth action, which I always find to be a lot of fun. Bills Dolphins was a lot of fun. Probably the most fun game of the entire season, mainly because it showed something that we didn't think was even real up until it happened, and it was the weakness of the Bills and the Dolphins. We'll see if that game comes up in Heartbreakers or not when we come back right here on the Broke Boys Sports Podcast. Oh man, what's up? We are back at it like a crack addict. What's going on here? Anyway, just got invited to an event called Litty Titty. We'll see how that goes. Litty Titty in San Antonio. Anyway, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about some more football. Let's talk about the Heartbreakers category. So there are 4 games in this category, and then we're almost done. I feel like we're powering through now that the games are broken up into categories, and also I'm doing a better job of not talking about games that aren't fun anymore. Anyway, trying to do better for you, trying to do better for me, trying to do better for the fans, trying to do better about football, bro. Let's talk about, first of all, let's switch back to this other scene so you can see the face. You know what I mean? All right, let's talk about Heartbreakers. First up and foremost on this one, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the LA Chargers. So the score wasn't the heartbreaking part about this. The things that happened in the course of the game were. So the Jacksonville Jaguars and the LA. Let me pull it up right now so we can all commiserate together. LA Chargers injury report. Not to laugh at injuries. Injuries are bad, especially since one of my dudes is down for the entire season. I gotta text him, by the way. I really do need to text him because it happened and I didn't want to text him immediately or whatever. But no thanks. So, player report. Limited practice today. Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, J.C. Jackson, Austin Jackson, the nose tackle, Corey Linsley, the center, and Donald Parham on the injury report. Which, by the way, significantly better than what it was last week, if you are after this game, essentially. So, the heartbreaking part was, one, the Jacksonville Jaguars stomp out the Chargers. They play all the way to the bitter end. They leave Justin Herbert in there the entire time, knowing that Justin Herbert has injured ribs, which are affecting his ability to be able to throw a football. I don't know if you guys know this or not. That's a big part of his job description. It's kind of important. We also saw Austin Eckler get bottled up completely, mainly because the Jacksonville Jaguars defensive line is on a whole nother level. They also got Devin Lloyd, by the way. He is the AFC Defensive Rookie of the Week. Very impressive. Devin Lloyd, the guy who much rumored to be better than Nakobe Dean, the Georgia linebacker who's a little bit undersized but also clearly had the ability to inspire his teammates to greatness as well, along with his skills being pretty high. But Devin Lloyd physically was deemed to be a better football player, and he's showing out. He's showing out early on this one. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Trayvon Walker, also, he looking pretty good too. Josh Allen, he's doing a good job too. You know what I mean? But yeah, the Jaguars defense. Oh boy. They got something brewing down there in Florida. By the way, all the people in Florida that listen to the show, hopefully y'all are safe, man. Hopefully y'all got out of there while y'all still could. I know it missed a certain part of Florida, so hope everybody's safe. And if they're not, hit your boy up. Houston has been known to take in a refugee or two. We'll see. Anyway, moving on. The sad part, this is the reason this made the Heartbreakers category, is because of the injuries that happened afterwards. So Joey Bosa is on IR. Joey Bosa's on IR for, I think it's short-term IR, which I think this is the last week to be able to put people on short-term IR. So good luck with that. He's out for like 7 weeks or something like that. He is on IR. Rashawn Slater out for the season, torn biceps, a flurry of other injuries that are massive for the Chargers to be successful. Yeah, not great, especially in a 38-10 loss that had the starters in it all the way to the end. A little questionable, but then again, I'll say this. Staley is a head coach in the NFL. I am not, and those two things are for a specific reason. So, that being said, man, 38-10, heartbreaking part about this one is not only did the Chargers lose by the biggest margin of victory the Jaguars have had literally since I was in 5th grade. The last time they were able to win by a margin this big was 2001 on the road. So that was something. But they did it, and then they lost massive key players in the process of being able to do it. Literally insult to injury. So final score on that one, 38-10. Jaguars win in dominating fashion. Philadelphia Eagles 24-8. All right, so this one's a heartbreaker because this may be a soul crusher game. So I believe that there are games that mentally and emotionally and spiritually break teams and shut them down for the remainder of the season. It happens in college a lot more often than we think, but in the NFL, it definitely happens in terms of like people wanting to listen to the people in charge. We've seen it happen to the Commanders before. Back when Dwayne Haskins was the starting quarterback, a lot of people didn't like his preparation. They didn't feel like he was doing everything that he needed to do to be able to prepare, and then it all culminated in that video of him yelling at his offensive line to get turned up, and they literally were not looking him in the eye, and they were like having conversations, and he was like, basically it gave him like, all of a sudden now you care. Now that we're in a bad situation and our back is up against the wall, now you care. We could have prepared better for this situation and been done for it. Anyway, other stuff in this one. 24-8. The Eagles basically didn't score in the second half of this game because the Commanders' defense is like somewhat good sometimes. Consistently good? No. I will say this, consistency was a factor in this game. For instance, the last time the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles played each other, Carson Wentz was the quarterback, and he got sacked 8 times. That was when he was the starting quarterback for the Eagles. Last Sunday, when he was the starting quarterback for the Washington Commanders, he got sacked 9 times. Consistency is key, folks. It's paramount. It's paramount to your success. By the way, they lost. Carson Wentz also lost that game too, 27-17. Anyway, the other thing that came out of this one, Carson Wentz had 24 passing yards at halftime of this game. The Commanders' first points of the game were scored at 14:06 of the fourth quarter, and it was a safety. I think I've said enough. I think my job is done here, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can see why, once again, the Commanders did not win. By the way, the Commanders did that thing where they don't play at all in the first half, and then the second half they start playing well. They also, like I said before earlier, I can't remember if this was at the beginning of the podcast or the beginning of the stream, but the Commanders were also very close to being the saddest drive of the week. They had a 17-play drive that got all the way down to the Eagles' 1-yard line, and then they turned the ball over on downs. Yeah. So, anyway, Vikings, Lions. DeAndre Swift gets hurt in this game. There's rumors he's about to miss multiple weeks because of a shoulder injury, which would be very reminiscent of what happened last year for DeAndre Swift, where he missed, I think, 4 games in total because of an ankle injury. The Vikings, once again, not prime time. Kirk Cousins shows up. Kirk Cousins does the thing. Justin Jefferson gets bought back-to-back weeks where Justin Jefferson kind of gets Houdini'd. If you don't know what that verbiage is, Houdini'd is very famous for the disappearing act, being able to make an elephant disappear in a room kind of deal. And there are certain corners that have that capability. They just put a cape over the top of your number 1 wide receiver, and then poof, it's like they don't exist anymore, which is, in this case, Jeff Okudah, who 3 weeks of the season playing like one of the best corners in the NFL. Jeff, looking like the dude the Lions drafted all those years ago, especially considering last season, if you recall, he got into the face of that DB's coach when he was like yelling and screaming at him and stuff like that, and they had to be separated. By the way, that happened multiple times this week, and it was very interesting. But the Vikings get the win 28-24, and yet again, Lions fans are down bad. I think you guys are starting to see a theme here, right? Like, they are very close to being able to compete with good teams, and very close to potentially, if they continue to get better throughout the course of the season, the Lions might be going to the fucking playoffs. Anyway, moving on. Bengals 27, Jets 12. The Bengals played the worst pressure team in the NFL. The worst pressure team they faced all season so far through 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden, Joe Burrow can throw the ball again. Who would have thought? It's almost like the Bengals have the same problem they had last year, this year. Interesting. By the way, in a week filled with like really weird turnovers, the Bengals got what I maintain to be the most difficult turnover to get in the NFL, and that is a wide receiver fumble, because they have to fill like 4 or 5 different categories before it's deemed a fumble, and somehow Jamar Chase did that in half a second while semi-bobbling a ball, like legitimately fumbled the ball while like it didn't seem like he had control of it or whatever, and that was a result of an unofficial stat that I'm personally keeping. And it is the hardest hitting defenses in the NFL. And the Jets are that. The Jets are top 5. The Jets are top 5 and hard hitting in the NFL. And it also results in sometimes you give up touchdowns. Sometimes, for the sake of violence, points must be surrendered. And quite frankly, that level of dedication to wanting to hit people as hard as you fucking possibly can, right in my heart. I love it. They did give up like a massive touchdown to Tyler Boyd because they were trying to like sandwich him and murder him essentially, which they did later on in the game, and got flagged for it. Trey Hendrickson had a career high in a single game in sacks with 2.5, which tells you all you need to know about what happened with the Jets. Remember that? Remember how we described what happened in week 1 when the Ravens were basically up Joe Flacco's ass the entire game? That's what happened in this one the whole time. The Bengals' pressure was like crazy effective, mainly because Joe Flacco can't move all that well. He moves well in the pocket a little bit, but when he's out in open space, oh, it's bad. It's bad news. Something's gone horribly wrong, and it might just about to be on the verge of getting absolutely worse. He had 4 turnovers in the entirety of this game, so that's 4 possessions taken away from a Jets offense that's not all that explosive, which of course sets you up to get blown out like they did. By the way, side note, Joe Flacco is 5th in the NFL in pass yards, but he is dead last among starters for passes that are over 20 yards in terms of yards gained and completions. So, don't worry. Much sadder things are on the horizon. Zach Wilson looks like he's back. I personally was really enjoying the Joe Flacco experience because Joe clearly is showing that he had some talent and skill that the Ravens didn't squeeze out of him when he was with the Baltimore Ravens. So, makes you wonder what could have been. What could have been? Joe doing his job and making the Jets like semi-competitive in most of the games they've played so far this season. And then now they're back to trying to figure out if Zach Wilson is the guy. Yeah, anyway. Last hydration break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about full games. We're going to talk about the Falcons and the Seahawks, the Dolphins and the Bills, the Colts and the Chiefs, the Ravens and the Patriots in this one, in the category that is the most fun for me personally. This is what we're here for. Right here on the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. You know, hydrate however you need to. Do you. I believe in you. I think you're responsible. I know that may be a bold assumption on the part of some of you, but I have faith. I have faith. Let's see. I'm trying to find a song for y'all here, man. Show music. Here we go. Shouldn't have clicked on the folder. Let's see. Let's go Humble Beliefs. I love that song by Christina Gugas. And we're back here live on the Broke Boys Sports Podcast. I'm Ashton Gene Lewis, and the mystery continues, folks. The bit rate is in the red, but we haven't skipped a single frame yet. Interesting. Only time will tell, or somebody smarter will tell. Not me. Not me. Not I. Don't forget, we are doing episode 200 of the show tomorrow. But tomorrow's not here yet. Today, we're on the last category is what I was going to say. We're in the last category of games for week 3 this season. And how do I put this? These are the games that I had the most fun watching this week. So, we're going to start at the top. Patriots Ravens. The result of this one decisively with the Ravens, but how we got there is the interesting journey. So, after going scoreless in the first quarter, the Patriots offense in this game throughout the course of it showed the most life that we've seen out of them the entire season, right? This is, I think this is a season high in points scored. Hold on, let me double check. I'm pretty sure this is a season high in points scored for the Patriots. It is, by a lot. They scored 7 and 17 in the last 2 weeks. So, versus the Ravens, they kind of finally figured it out. Maybe they figured out who the offensive coordinator is. And that helps a ton in terms of, like, wanting to be successful. But what do I know? I'm just a guy who talks about football into a microphone. So, I don't know actually jack shit. Patriots, though, a lot of this was carried. And this is in the category of one of those games where you're looking at how Mac Jones could potentially be the guy and not the guy at the same time. So he had over 300 yards passing and 0 touchdowns with 3 interceptions, right? Like, they had so many drives that were none of these touchdowns were like massive plays. They had a 50-yard field goal from Nick Folk. Everything else is literally they got into the red zone off of Mac Jones's arm, and then they decided they were going to run it when they got close to the goal line, and it panned out for them. You know what I mean? Like, they're a team that very decisively is like, we want to keep it simple in the red zone, and we want to just move the people out the way, which I, for one, as a big guy, can respect. I appreciate a bunch. But when it was all said and done, the Ravens defense adds another game to their resume of why we think that they could be a top 5 defense in the NFL. Their pass rush is on point. They generated 4 turnovers in this game. By the way, Marcus Williams emerging very much so this season. Shout out. Marcus Williams turning up in this one. It has been for the last 3 games of the season. And that would be another defensive back selected by, probably the greatest general manager in the history of football, Ozzie Newsome. Anyway, everybody got in on the party, though. Jonathan Jones, Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, and Josh Bynes got an interception in this one. Everybody was out there doing their thing. You love to see it. They had so many passes deflected in this game. It was fucking stupid. I think it was like everybody who started in the secondary got a pass deflected. I'm looking at it. Yeah, 7 people with passes deflected. But what we saw on the screen, really good defensive performance. Also, another game in the belt of Lamar Jackson. Potential MVP candidate. Even in that game that they lost by that massive comeback from the Dolphins, he looked like the better quarterback out of the 2 of them in the first half, right? And still, we wait to see how long this whole season is going to shake out, because that's what it really comes down to. He got sacked 4 times in this game, but he was a massive reason for why they scored every single time. I'm pretty sure they only didn't score on 2 drives. On 2 drives, I'm pretty sure is the only time that they didn't score. So yeah, pretty much. So they had 2 turnovers, so those drives got taken away. Other than the interception and the fumble, which is a big deal, they had 2 drives where they did not score. Those are big deals. This was, ironically enough, you could say a good loss for the Patriots because they've looked terrible the last 2 weeks. Even in a game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that you could argue has more defensive talent, but overall you would argue that the Patriots have more talent on their team in general. Life comes at you fast sometimes, though. Mac Jones, massive injury. We all saw the photo where it looks like, he got shot, basically, while he was on the field. and gets taken back, which, by the way, for a football player to show pain, you know that's some type of pain that your boy is never trying to feel, to be honest with you. So there we go. Ravens get the big win over the Patriots. I thought this game was interesting, one, because it showed some life from the Patriots overall, and it was a little back and forth for a little while there. It was a little tussle. I like that a lot. Saw a lot of really good plays. That's a main reason. Between the sacks, the interceptions, the good quarterbacking plays, because it clearly showed that the Patriots stuck with this game throughout the course of it, like, developing, and I thought that was massively important. Moving on, the game of the week, probably mainly because of its importance and significance to the NFL, the team that nobody thought could win in this one, the Miami Dolphins, now 3-0 on the season, one of two 3-0 teams along with the Eagles. They beat the team previously thought to be unstoppable in the Buffalo Bills. At halftime, this game was 14-all, and quite frankly, it's a little surprising. This game could have been significantly worse. There was a safety in it that made the score look a little bit better because it was 21-17 prior to the butt punt safety. The booty block, as I've been calling it. Everybody else wants to call it the butt punt, I guess, because it sounds better. Anyway, the booty block sounds cool. And I love the part where that up back tweets out, "I got a W tattooed on my ass cheeks," or tattooed on my cheeks, and it feels great. I respect that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot for sure. This game, although a lot of people thought this is going to be a matchup of like really high-powered offenses, this was a matchup between two amazing defenses. The Miami Dolphins, once again, showing that they truly are one of the best defenses in the NFL, whether it be just off pure pass rush, because they were on Josh Allen like white on rice this entire game, and it showed. And almost every single aspect of it. Most of the drives that the Bills scored on were them really having to grind it out. A lot of these drives that they had, because we already mentioned the drive play that had 20 plays in it or whatever, but we can sit here, we can talk about the other ones that are the other ones that you talk about. Like, they had one that's 10. That's where they scored their first touchdown of the game. That was the first 15 plays of the game. That was the smoothest they looked throughout the entirety of this game, by the way. They had a 14-play drive that resulted in a touchdown sandwich between a fumble, and then the last and final time they would score would be off of that field goal, that if they had turned it into a touchdown, they probably would have won this game, or at least been able to force overtime. They got in field goal range again and missed on a 6-play drive, in what would have made it would have been, so it was 2017. It would have tied the game up. Yeah, no. It would have put them down by 1. And then they got another drive off of that one. 17 plays, all the way down inside, deep into the Dolphins' red zone, and their defense stands them up, straight up. And they turn it over on downs on what would have been a game-winning drive. But a world where they score a touchdown on that drive that turned into a field goal does exist, and it is probably going to result in the Buffalo Bills winning this game, because quite frankly, their defense did amazing for a team that was down like basically every corner they have, except Jordan Poyer, and it showed. Down every DB they had except like their 2 starting safeties, and will continue to be. Like, Dane Jackson's back in practice today, but the Buffalo Bills, they're going through it right now in terms of these injuries up front, especially in the most important part of the field at DB, man. But yeah, no, I mean, this game was actually a ton of fun. Minus the whole, minus Tua getting a back injury, this game was a ton of fun. Josh Allen showing out again, 63 pass attempts for 400 yards to get 2 touchdowns, by the way. That's how good the Dolphins defense was. Gave up 400 yards, but once again, you can get 1,000 yards in a single football game and score exactly 0 points if you don't get the yard between you and the goal line, right? And then the Dolphins doing a good job of blending it up, mixing it up a lot. They had 20 pass attempts to 41 rushing attempts. They clearly are a team that has shown time and time again. So even just the 3 games that we've seen so far, they can look like a totally different team depending upon their opponent. And that type of versatility, that's how you win important games as a football team. The ability to be run heavy, pass heavy, to take what the defense gives you, to fully exploit the defense, whether it be pushing the secondary further and further down the field to open up the middle of the field, taking passes that are on the edges, being able to dump off to the running back, being able to run the ball up the field, and that also, and this is an underrated part of this, that helps the offensive line of the Miami Dolphins. When the defense has to wonder what is going on, and then two, when they have to change up their coverage looks to the point where they cannot afford to rush 4 people on an individual play because they're, one, not getting to the quarterback fast enough in some of these cases, but two, like they don't have the energy to run from sideline to sideline throughout the entirety of the game. It helps the offensive line immensely when the D linemen have to sit there and think about what they need to be able to do and what they need to be in position to be able to do in case the ball doesn't just stay into his hands for 3 seconds and he dumps it off. That was cool. Great view on that point. Both of these defenses look like they're top 3 in the league. Straight up. The Miami Dolphins off of the pressure that they generate, and then the secondary for the Buffalo Bills, as always, looking fantastic again. Moving on, this game was huge. I know I'm a Seahawks fan, but I'm a little biased on this one. For some reason, the line was heavily in favor of the Seahawks in this, and I thought through the first 2 weeks of the season, it was very clear that the Falcons were better than the Seahawks, and it was the way that this game shook out. One, it's a little heartbreaking, I'm sure, for Pete Carroll to see a team that runs the ball really, really well. That ran the ball up the middle really well. And that was his undoing in this game. That had to be heartbreaking, heart-wrenching to see a team that can just pound the rock better than they could. And that's basically what the undoing of this one was. That's how this one all shook out when it was all said and done, man. The Falcons threw the ball 20 times in this game, guys, and ran it 31. They showed intention. By the way, Geno Smith still looking like he got that juice, boy. 44 passing attempts, 2 touchdowns in this one. And can't say they all look terrible. It's just about the timing of it, right? What really was the undoing for the Seahawks, their defense couldn't block up the middle at all. Like, they could not plug any other run holes. And it showed throughout the course of the game because, look, the Seahawks had 20 points at halftime, right? They were doing pretty good. They did shut down towards the back half of it. They only got 3 in the second half of this game, and the Falcons were able to, keep the juice going a little bit longer and kept this game relatively close. But I will say this. It's good to see the Falcons kind of figuring out how to grind out a win. I know the Seahawks don't have much of a comeback ability in them because they haven't figured out that part, how to do it with Geno Smith when it's all said and done. And most of the time, their possessions take so long, bro. The Seahawks possessions, one, are truly erratic. Like, it's very, very difficult and very rare you see them string together 3 good plays that are for positive yardage. So it extends. While they can stay on the field longer, the fact of the matter is that they're not looking good while they're having these long drives. That's what it's looked like to me the last couple of weeks. And I'll point this out about the Falcons. For as bad as people are talking about their defense are, they look better this year than they did last year. That's saying a lot. They look like probably the worst defense in the league last year and look a lot better this year. So, but to the Seahawks' credit, it's not like they didn't have a chance in this game. They had their final drive. They had the ball second to last on this one, so it's not like they didn't have a chance to go for. They didn't have a chance to go for the win on this one. This was the first interception of the game for Geno Smith, and turn the ball over, take away the chance of making that being able to happen. The second game, this is the last game. Please don't tell me I've been on the high. Okay, cool. I was just making sure. I thought it was on the hydration reminder page the entire time. I had to double check. Anyway, we move on to the final game for week 3. Colts 20, Chiefs 17. Don't ask me how this happened. Somehow, some way, the Colts found a way on offense to match the intensity that their defense has been bringing all season. The Colts defense even stood up and played better than they have, which has been really good. They've been looking like a top 10 defense for 3 games of the season. And finally, the Colts offense mustered some of it together. Let's be real. Don't bank on this happening every single week. Yes, this is a massive win for them in the AFC, but the fact of the matter is, man, it looked bad. The way that they won this game, I will point out, this definitely came off more of the Colts dragged the Chiefs into the gutter than the Colts really stepping up and turning up. They did play on offense better than they have the first 2 weeks of the season. Between you and me, that's not hard. That's not difficult at all. Once again, by the way, going back to the thing that I mentioned week 2, when they got smoked by the Jags and they just refused to use the biggest and best tool available to them, and that's Jonathan Taylor. They had 27 carries in this game for 82 yards. That unacceptable, bro. Like that, like more running. Like, I get it. Everybody wants to look cool. Everybody wants to be like Patty Mahomes and everything like that. By the way, Patrick Mahomes didn't look like he wanted to be Patrick Mahomes in this game. 1-1 touchdown interception ratio. Only got sacked one time, which is good considering some points of this season early on against the Chargers. Offensive line looked like they were struggling. Looked like they was struggling, if you know what I mean. But, man, timing is everything, and the Colts had good timing on Sunday. They got a Kansas City, like I said before, they dragged the Chiefs down into the gutter with them, and the Chiefs were not ready to fight in the gutter. And I respect that. I feel like that's massively important. That's really important. Colts had to go on a game-winning drive for 76 yards, which is the longest drive they've had this entire season that's resulted in a touchdown. And, it's pretty impressive considering they barely have scored any touchdowns this season at all. But, yeah, man, biggest and best note to point out, get the ball out of Matt Ryan's hands. And maybe you'll score more than 20 points. But what do I know? I'm just a dude talking into a microphone, right? That's all I got to say on that one. Oh, and the Cowboys won. Is that good? Does that count enough? I'm kidding. Actually, watching Monday Night Football, Cowboys killed it defensive line-wise. If they're, I follow defensive D-line videos on Instagram, which, by the way, if you like to watch football, in particular, if you like to watch pass rushing stuff, best follow on IG. The last couple of weeks, they've had a ton of content to post. They could post 20 videos a day for the next 3 weeks if they really needed to, because I've seen some amazing moves so far. But in particular, going back to the Cowboys look the best. Defensively, they have all season, and they look pretty good last week versus the Bengals. Game ends on a game-winning interception from Trayvon Diggs. And fact of the matter is, man, Michael Parsons is a goddamn demon. Tank Lawrence, DeMarcus Lawrence looks really good out there. He turned up for sure. His interior rushing was ridiculous in this game. And, the other team showed up. Saquon Barkley looked great. Really disappointed to see Sterling Shepard go down again, especially off some freaky injury where he literally is just running up the field to distract a corner from a run play and pops his ACL in the process. So, yeah. If you're the Cowboys, mission accomplished for Cooper Rush. He can lose these next couple of games. I doubt they are. It's been really weird to watch them because basically they just haven't made any mistakes. Like, that Cooper Rush hasn't made any mistakes in, really key situations. He's done a good job of, setting the defense up. I think their drives are lasting longer than when they had Dak Prescott in there. And to Cooper Rush's credit, other people messing up his big plays that he's making. We all saw CeeDee Lamb have, the rarest drop I think we've seen in his entire career, which is really weird because people are, going off on Twitter about how, CeeDee Lamb can't catch, and I was like, y'all are weird, bro. Y'all are really weird if you think that's what the deal is. But overall, man, there's nothing really you can say about Cooper Rush being bad at his job. Everybody else did a pretty decent job of making plays. Tony Pollard continues to have another game where he looks like he's the better running back out of Ezekiel Elliott. The offensive line holds together, even without Tyron Smith. Again? Life is strange. Cowboys, look like they might be a playoff team based off what we've seen in the first 3 weeks, especially if they can get wins out of Cooper Rush. And there's like rumors that Dak might be coming back early. Tell me if you've heard that one before. But yeah, like his injury isn't as bad as everybody thought it was. Look, man, I hate to see the football gods smile upon a team such as the Dallas Cowboys, but you got to admit it. For a team that's in technically a bad situation with their starter down, they getting a couple of lucky breaks here. Luckily their talent, they scouted out and utilized enough talent to be able to be successful so far. And that talent is overcoming teams that are not as talented. The Giants are a team that is heavily dependent upon the second half of the game to be a representative of the work they put in the first half. And what I mean when I say that is they run the ball a ton in the first half to set up the pounding punishment in the second half, to set up play action to be able to work. Oh, man, I just realized I also didn't talk about the game that I hated the most this weekend. The Panthers played the Saints, and Baker Mayfield literally could not hit the broadside of a barn in that game. I just want to put that out there. He missed multiple wide open touchdowns, but his elite level, like the Panthers defense, once again, like once this first month of the season is over with, I expect the Panthers defense to fall off like they did last year. But J.C. Horn, we're seeing Brian Burns turn up a little bit. They got the ball to Laviska Shenault finally and got it away from Shi Smith, who's been struggling a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, he's been struggling a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, you go back and watch that game, they clearly made a change like at the 10 play mark of the game to stop Baker from having to throw further than 10 yards down the field. Baker could not hit DJ Moore, who had gotten 7 yards of separation from his defensive back on an out route. Missed him. Missed on a sprint out towards the right-hand side where he was rolling to, and missed on like what could have been a lobbed pass to DJ Moore. Missed the DJ Moore on a post route where he was completely wide open. Missed Shi Smith while he was wide open. And once again, another week where Baker Mayfield cannot figure out how to get the fucking ball to Robbie Anderson. Sorry to curse so vehemently on this one, but it is so annoying when you know Baker Mayfield has the arm talent, but not the accuracy to be able to get the ball where it needs to go. They had a route, and it looked like it was supposed to be a back shoulder based off the ball that Baker threw, but guess what happened? Robbie never looked back at any point. So it's really hard to tell what it was. Probably an option route when it all comes down to it, but if there's been a wide receiver quarterback duo that is in the NFL right now this week that has a worse connection, it is Robbie Anderson, who very clearly before the season started talked about how he did not want Baker Mayfield on his team, and every single week he is proven right. And I don't know if that's Robbie's fault. I don't know if it's Baker's fault. More than likely, it's both of them. But it is really, really painful to watch Baker try and throw the ball anywhere close to 10 yards down the field. Anyway, that's all I got on that game. The turnovers did the Saints in. Chris Olave had the best game of his entire young career. Tell me if you've heard this one before. Ohio State wide receiver dominates game. Michael Thomas came out there, looked pretty good, got hurt. Jarvis Landry hurt his ankle in the course of that game, and it got put on Chris Olave to make something happen. And he went out there, he made it shake a little bit, you know what I mean? And the Saints, for every good play that they had 5 more bad ones. Really, really came down to it. Defense did a great job. I'd like to point out also, don't let the score deceive you. The Panthers offense scored 14 points in this game because they had one of the craziest, I think it was a blocked field goal, or it was a fumble. They stripped Alvin Kamara, and Marquise Hayes, who, by the way, the fastest D lineman I've ever seen in open field, because he scooped that ball up and he was outrunning his teammates, getting separation from his teammates who did not have a ball in their hand, and got to celebrate that touchdown. He's like, oh, I'm getting this one. And it looked good. Showing up for the big dudes. Although I'm sure I weigh like 100 pounds more than Marquise Hayes, but I like to see D linemen showing that they're elite athletes as well. On that note, the Cowboys won. The Giants lost because they have to focus their offense on their best player, and their best player gets bottled up, and then they have to depend upon Daniel Jones and utilize play action to get him time to sit in the pocket and throw the ball down the field. They're also losing wide receivers left and right because they're going to have to play Kenny Golladay because they don't have Sterling Shepard. They put David Sills out there. David Sills slipped down on the potential game-winning drive, and Trayvon Diggs was able to stay up when he made his break, and he caught a game-winning interception. And the Giants, ladies and gentlemen, one of the best teams in the NFL, take their first loss of the season on Monday Night Football. Also close to a 3-0 season. Anyway, I'm done. I'm out. I got stuff to do. You got stuff to do. Hit me up on Twitter, FB_playbook, or at the Ashton J. Hit me up on Instagram as well. I'll be out there. I'll be hanging out on Instagram as well, at the Ashton Forever. That is also where you can find me on TikTok, at the Ashton Forever, where I post a bunch of stuff. Where else can you find me, or do I want you to find me? That's it. Follow the podcast at Broke Boy Pod on Twitter. And I'll talk to y'all later, man. Wash your hands, wash your ass, do good, bro. Like Mr. Feeney said all those years ago, do good, bro.